Willow Ryan. Willow Ryan.
Peter Williamson.
Scott Jensen.
Harlow Bernwald. Rita Bernhard.
Harry Bloodworth.
Sarah Jones.
Okay. Next item is approval of minutes. Looks like we had an update to the minutes. Did anybody have any other comments on minutes?
No.
Then I would entertain a motion. Oh,
One thing, Chair, I did say abridged when in the highlighted correction. And what I was referring to is just like when I give you all like an excerpt of the staff report that only provides like our read amendments, like that's what I meant by abridged in that
Okay.
setting.
yeah, I have no problem with it. It's just somebody reading the minutes 3 years down the road that doesn't listen to the audio.
Yeah.
That's my only concern. I run into that. Anyway, if there's no other comments, then I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes
I'll second.
as read.
It's been moved and second. Is there any other conversation? All right, then, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, thank you. Now, citizen input. Would anybody like to comment on anything not on the agenda tonight? Right, seeing no one, we will move on to new business. Docket CU 1-26, PLA 1-26. Scappoose Hospitality Group LLC has requested approval of a consolidated application for conditional use, CU 1-26, to allow for construction of a hotel and various site amenities, as well as property line adjustment, PLA 1-26, between the subject site and tax lot 700. The site is located at an unaddressed property off Northeast Wagner Court, southeast of the Northeast Wagner Court and West Lane Road intersection, on property described as Columbia County Assessor Map 3106-C0-00800. This will be a quasi-judicial hearing allowing verbal testimony during the Planning Commission hearing, as well as written comments prior to the deadline. And, so I am calling this public hearing to order to consider an application for a conditional use and property line adjustment. Procedures for this hearing will follow a strict format. Testimony and evidence must address the criteria that apply to the decision as described in the staff report or to the criteria the person testifying believes to apply to the decision. Persons may speak only after being recognized by the chair and must come forward to the microphone and state their name and city of residence for the record. Only testimony that is relevant to the application will be considered. Immaterial or repetitious testimony will not be allowed, and time limits will be imposed if testimony is irrelevant or repetitious. The failure to raise and clarify an issue to afford all parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on the issue. Planning Commission will conduct this hearing in a quasi-judicial capacity. In other words, like a court trial where the Planning Commission serves as finders of fact. There shall be no audience demonstration or other conduct which would disrupt the hearing. Does any Planning Commission member wish to declare any ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest regarding this matter? Does anybody wish to challenge any commissioner's impartiality or legal capacity to participate in this matter? Seeing none, the order of the hearing will be the staff report, then the applicant's presentation, then other proponents, then opponents, then rebuttal by the applicant, then a staff response. Thereafter, the hearing will be closed for consideration of the matter by the commission. And with that, NJ.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time to look over tonight's materials. I'll begin by going over the subject site information and then the observations of the staff report. I'll then list the relevant approval criteria and the page references for that. I will also let you know our recommendation and then point you to the recommended conditions of approval that would go into that recommendation. Before we begin, similar to last time, we had a public comment come in after the staff report was published. I won't say this is an abridged staff report, but it is an excerpt of the staff report that only that completes the record of the full staff report that you have tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you'll see in here, we provide a summary of the comment. We also provide the full comment so that you could have read it. And you all got this on March 9th, which is when the comment from Mr. Wagner came in. And then our response also includes staff's analysis of the relevance of this comment. So, but I will get into that more specifically later. So going into the summary of the staff report, starting with subject site. The subject site is a largely vacant 2.33 acre parcel of land with an airport taxiway and associated 35-foot wide private taxiway easement along the southern edge of the site. There's also a 20-foot wide public sanitary sewer easement within a portion of the taxiway easement and an 8-foot public utility and street tree easement along the site frontage. These are all existing easements. Primary subject site is lot 3 of the 10-lot Aero Business Center subdivision, which is local file number SB 4-06, so 2006 approval there. And the other parcel involved in the property line adjustment to its east is lot 4 of this subdivision from the past. North of the subject site is Northeast Wagner Court, and then to the north of that is the PCC OMIC Training Center. West and east of the site are largely vacant parcels described as lots 2 and 4 of the Aero Business Center subdivision. And then south of the site is the former Cascade Tissues building. The subject site and all surrounding lands are zoned public use airport or PUA and are designated as airport employment on the comprehensive plan map. The subject site is not located in any kind of environmental hazard areas like floodplain, wetlands, watercourses, or slopes, things like that. Conditional use. The applicant is requesting approval of conditional use to allow for construction of a 107-unit hotel and various site amenities. It's a conditional use application as opposed to what we see more often as site development, because in every zone there are permitted uses which are outright permitted, and then there are conditional uses which you all as the Planning Commission, if you deem necessary, can add conditions really to make it more compatible with the surrounding use. We're not recommending any of those kind of conditions because it's other large buildings and vacant parcels, and so there's not really much around that's incompatible with a hotel here. But that's the type of application we're dealing with here tonight. For property line adjustment, the applicant has also applied for a property line adjustment to shift the common lot line between tax lots 700 and 800 to the east by 19 feet. This is to accommodate the extra parking that they needed on the eastern edge of their site. The PUA zone does not have a minimum lot size or applicable setbacks, and so the property line adjustment here will not impact the zoning conformance of this site. Consolidated land use applications. The applicant is requesting approval of 2 land use applications, which again are conditional use and property line adjustment. The applicant requested that these applications be processed as a consolidated application under one decision and approval. On their own, these applications would have different approval authorities. Property line adjustments are approved by staff. If someone just had that coming into our office, they could get it approved by staff without a hearing. But conditional use always requires Planning Commission approval, so that's why the property line adjustment is included in this as well. Approving a property line adjustment is a limited land use decision subject to our limited land use chapter and also the ORS on limited land use, whereas approving a conditional use is a quasi-judicial decision subject to our quasi-judicial chapter. The consolidated application will be processed in whole as a quasi-judicial decision since it provides more opportunities for public testimony, like they could provide verbal comment, whereas with limited land use, they could not provide verbal comment. Right-of-way public improvements. The subject site has frontage on Northeast Wagner Court, which is classified in our transportation system plan as a local industrial street. These kind of streets require 54 feet of right-of-way and 32 feet of vehicular travelway. 2 5.5-foot planter strips, 2 5-foot sidewalks, and 2 6-inch utility areas. The Wagner Court right-of-way is 54 feet wide with a 40.38-foot paved width, 5.76-foot sidewalks, and no planter strip. The Northeast Wagner Court meets the dimensional requirements for a local industrial street, other than obviously the planter strip that it doesn't have. And so they're going to plant their required street trees in the existing public utility street tree easement in order to satisfy that. The street is in good condition, and so no street improvements will be required here. The street lights are also, they're enough for the length of the frontage. There are currently 3 on the property's frontage, which is adequate for the site's length. Vehicular access and off-street parking. The applicant is proposing to install 2 30-foot wide commercial driveway entrances to provide access from Wagner Court to the hotel. Our section on parking requires a vehicular space for each room, plus an additional space for every 2 employees on a maximum shift. So the hotel is proposed to have 107 guest rooms, and the applicant stated that the largest shift will be 8 employees. So half of 8 being 4, plus 107, 111 parking spaces are required, but the applicant is proposing to provide 115 parking spaces, so they're actually exceeding our minimum here. Commercial spaces require the provision of 2 bicycle spaces per primary use, or 1 for every 5 required vehicular spaces, whichever ends up being greater. With a large parking lot, that second standard ends up being greater. So with 111 spaces required, the applicant would be required to provide parking capacity for 23 bicycles. They show the provision of 14 bicycle spaces for capacity for that on their site. And so the conditions will require that they provide the full 23 here. Staple steel racks or another approvable material will be required for these bike racks as well. Traffic generation, they submitted a transportation impact study, which is required for this type of application. This estimates the trips generated by the development and analyzes nearby intersections for safety and capacity. The study projects that the proposed development would generate 471 weekly daily trips, including 36 AM peak hour trips and 39 PM peak hour trips. And that all study intersections are forecasted to meet the city's performance criteria upon build out of the site. When you dig into the findings of this study that they put together, they recommended the following mitigation measures. One of them is place and maintain site landscaping, above ground utilities, and site signage along the site frontage to provide adequate intersection site distance per applicable city requirements. We already have visual clearance requirements on the books, and so the applicant is already following that. But for this next one, which is put a new stop sign in accordance with city standards and the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, or MUTCD as you'll more commonly hear it, on the northbound approaches. So essentially, as they're exiting the parking lot, there would be a stop sign at each driveway. And so that recommendation from the traffic engineer has been put into the conditions of approval here. The applicant submitted a composite utility plan, grading and drainage plan, and stormwater analysis that are all in your packet, and provide the schemes that I'm about to go through here. There is currently an 8-inch PVC sewer main in Northeast Wagner Court, just to the west of the subject site's frontage, that runs southbound into tax lot 1700 through that sanitary sewer easement I mentioned earlier, and intersects with another 8-inch PVC line that runs within the sanitary easement of the subject site. The applicant proposes to connect the hotel building to the main from the rear of the building with a new 6-inch lateral that they would install. The easements established as part of the previous subdivision, the Aero Business Center, are adequate. All of the lines are within the existing easements, and so no rearrangement of the mains are proposed or necessary here. There's an existing 15-inch corrugated polyethylene pipe, or CPP, stormwater main in the Wagner Court. The applicant is proposing to install catch basins throughout the site that would collect stormwater generated, which would then be conveyed into the public stormwater main. The main flows eastward past the site and then pivots southward, where it's eventually discharged into a stormwater outfall adjacent to the Crown Z Trail. So a little bit away from the site, but still within our public system. The proposed stormwater system would be capable of managing a 25-year storm event, which is what our code requires. And then for water, there's an existing 8-inch C900 main in Wagner Court. The applicant is proposing a pretty straightforward lateral connection here. It'll go through the parking lot around the east of the side of the building to make that connection near where the sewer is in the rear of the building. Landscaping, buffering, and screening. The applicant submitted a landscape plan as 4H that you all have in your packets. The applicant is proposing to plant 11 Pacific Sunset maple street trees along the northeast Wagner Court frontage. Again, this is in the street tree easement that already exists since there's not a planter in the right-of-way. There's just road and sidewalk. The species is on the city's approved street tree list and is placed appropriately in terms of its interval spacing within the easement here. Our code also requires if 4 or more off-street parking spaces are required, that off-street parking that would be adjacent to a public street shall provide a minimum of 4 square feet of landscaping for each lineal foot of street frontage. So additionally, 1 street tree that provides a canopy of at least 300 square feet upon maturity shall be provided for each 50 lineal feet of street frontage or fraction thereof. As proposed, there are 12 stalls that would be adjacent to the street if not for landscaping, and each stall is 9 feet wide. So that gives us 108 feet of lineal frontage. This triggers a requirement for 432 square feet of landscaping and 3 large canopy trees. The applicant is proposing to provide 1,959 square feet of landscaping that is dense and diverse, as well as 4 trees within this area with a canopy of 491 square feet as at maturity between the 3 parking spaces and Northeast Wagner Court. The blue fescue shrubs that are proposed on the front of the right-of-way, but are only 8 to 12 inches tall at maturity. The recommended conditions of approval will require that these shrubs are at least 2 feet in height, which our code requires. For noticing and referral, the City of Scappoose City Manager, Public Works Director, and Chief of Police, as well as the Columbia County Building Official, the Port of Columbia County, Oregon Department of Aviation, Scappoose Rural Fire Protection District, and Columbia River PUD have been provided an opportunity to review and comment on this proposal. And the city engineer's comments are incorporated throughout the report and conditions here. Most agency respondents, including the Scappoose Public Works Director, the Chief of Police, the Columbia River PUD, provided comments stating that they have reviewed it and don't have any objections as long as it meets the applicable criteria. The Fire District provided a comment, which is Exhibit 12, issuing requirements related to building addressing, apparatus access roads, alarm and sprinklers, hydrants, landscaping, and safety during construction. These recommended conditions of approval will require that the applicant adhere to all of the requirements laid out in the Fire District's comment. Similarly to previous ones, the building official provided a similar comment, no issues as long as it meets the criteria. The Oregon Department of Aviation provided a referral comment making statements on 3 separate issues that we're going to walk through here. So the first one, pretty standard, the applicant will need to submit an official notice of construction to the Oregon Department of Aviation, which I'm going to call ODAV here, and the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, separately. The applicant should receive the resulting aeronautical determination letters from FAA and ODAV prior to approval of building permits. And this has been included in the recommended conditions of approval. Second, and also pretty standard, new structures and planted vegetation shall not penetrate the imaginary surfaces as determined by ODAV and FAA. The development proposal is currently consistent with this requirement and will be reinforced in the recommended conditions of approval. For this third comment, if you're not there already, I'm going to have you pull up Exhibit 4G, which is the applicant's transitional surface exhibit. This provides, so you'll see the thick, mostly north-south line that's running. That's the edge of what's called the transitional surface. And this is an imaginary surface that is to the east and west of the airport runway. And this is for protection for planes coming in and out of the airport throughout the year. And you'll also see in the bottom left corner of this Exhibit 4G, you can see at the very bottom, they show the building, which is about 50 feet tall. And then you see the horizontal surface. That's because it's a three-dimensional surface. So it from the airport runway and then from the buffer beyond that, it's going up at a rate of 1 to 7. So for every foot it elevates, it goes out 7 feet. So that's how that works. And it's, again, for protection for the buildings and then also airplanes flying in and around the airport. You'll see that there's about 73 feet of separation from this three-dimensional surface between the surface and the top of the building. So with that in mind, I'm going to get into this third point that ODAV raised. So ODAV observed that a portion of the building footprint is underneath the transitional surface and stated that the Oregon Airport Land Use Compatibility Guidebook, which is what they use for these comments, deems residential uses, including transient lodging or hotels, to be non-compatible underneath the transitional surface. This is what the comment said. ODAV does not recommend approval of development, which is found to be in conflict with this guidebook. And then in response to this, and we had some meetings with ODAV and the Port of Columbia County, who's online tonight as well. We had some meetings with them, and the city finds and holds the following in response to this. The guidebook that I mentioned that is cited as a basis for this comment lists hotels as incompatible within the transitional surface, but the use of underneath the surface is not mentioned in terms of their compatibility here. Transitional surface is defined in the city's code and guidebook as those surfaces that extend upward and outward at 90-degree angles to the runway centerline, and the runway centerline extended at a slope of 7 feet horizontally for each foot vertically. So that's, again, what I said, 1 to 7. The city interprets within a transitional surface to have a separate meaning from underneath, where within requires a use to penetrate the surface or go through it and be above it. In this case, it's that 73 feet beneath the surface. We kind of look whenever there's a question of, well, what does this one word in land use mean? We look at how that word is used elsewhere. And so what we did was we looked through the guidebook and we say, okay, are there other areas where they're saying the word underneath or beneath? Turns out there are. And so with the guidebook using the word within, and then with beneath and underneath being used elsewhere, we have to assume by legal principles, by planning principles, that these are meant to mean different things, that within does not mean underneath. As I mentioned, the city held a meeting with ODAV and the Port of Columbia County on March 4th, 2026. This was the morning after they submitted their comment. In this meeting, ODAV acknowledged that their comment is a recommendation based on their interpretation of within the transitional surface, and that the city, as the land use approval agency, and you all here tonight, hold the authority to interpret this issue and render a decision on the application as a whole, even though this recommendation by ODAV has been issued. ODAV also clarified that the city making this interpretation to allow the hotel here would not preclude the applicant from receiving the necessary determination letters from ODAV or the FAA, that this is a local interpretation, and that we need to make best sense of what this within versus beneath discussion is trying to guide us to do around airports. I mentioned a couple times the guidebook. So the city has adopted the model code language, and so our code is already completely in alignment with the guidebook. It's essentially a mirror of one another. In our discussions, the ODAV planner that we met with was really saying that there needs to be some more clarification on this, and again, going back to that ability to have a local interpretation does lie with the city. We also, like I said, we brought the port into this conversation. They had originally submitted a referral comment with the the ones that others have, that they don't have any concerns. They actually, if you saw in the staff report, they currently are the owners of this property and obviously manage the port to the east of this. And they restated or they re-provided a comment stating that they have reviewed the application, participated in the meeting with ODAV in the city, and do not have any concern about this regarding the transitional surface with this project and the port-owned Scappoose Airport. So that's that matter. The next item is the comment submitted by Len Wagner, which you all have passed out as Exhibit 16. Mr. Wagner's comment expresses concerns related to the expected room occupancy of the hotel, the financial feasibility of the hotel, reuse of the building if the hotel is not successful, hotel amenities provided in this development, and the city allowance of another hotel to be built somewhere else in the city. Except for the final item, each concern raised in this comment is a private matter, really in terms of feasibility in the market for the developer to weigh and decide. The only one that does relate to city is the final point about would the city allow another hotel to occur potentially on the highway or something else like that. And the answer is yes, we would. If a hotel were allowed in the zone, there's nothing in our code that precludes a second hotel from going in. There's sometimes in land use, you'll see, it can't be within 1,000 feet of this, or you see it a lot for like short-term rentals that they want to, cities want to space out their short-term rentals within the city and not have them too consolidated. For us in hotels, that's not a concern here. So we would allow another hotel if it came up down the road, if it were in a zone that allowed hotels. And then finally, notice of this application and quasi-judicial hearing tonight was mailed to property owners within 300 feet of the site on February 20th, posted in the February 27th edition of the Columbia County Spotlight, and then posted on the subject site in accordance with Chapter 17.162. That next statement needs to be revised. As of the date of this report, there's one public comment submitted. Moving to the findings of fact, staff's findings related to Chapter 12.10 visual clearance areas can be found on pages 12 through 14 of the packet. 17.69 PUA public use airport, pages 14 and 15. 17.88 AO public use airport safety and compatibility overlay zone, pages 15 through 19. 17.100 landscaping, screening, and fencing, pages 19 and 20. 17.104 street trees, 20 through 22. 17.106 off-street parking and loading requirements, 22 through 32. 17.130 conditional use, pages 32 through 36. 17.152 land division, major and minor land partitions and property line adjustments, pages 36 and 37. 17.154 street and utility improvement standards, pages 37 through 44. Chapter 17.162 procedures for decision-making quasi-judicial, pages 44 through 48. And then lastly, 17.164 procedures for decision-making limited land use decisions, page 48. Based on the findings of fact and the materials submitted by the applicant, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve conditional use 1-26, property line adjustment 1-26, subject to the conditions of approval listed on pages 48 through 52. At this time, I can take any questions that the commission has before we get into the applicant's presentation.
Seems like we don't have any questions at this time.
Okay.
So would the applicant like to come up, state your names and who you're representing and give your presentation?
Sure.
name is Scott Parker. I'm with Scappoose Hospitality Group, 33485 East Crowns on the Back Road, Scappoose.
My name is Angela Rose.
Window.
Sure.
Lori, is that showing the presentation?
Yep, I can see it now. Thank you.
Thank you.
The project is a 107-room extended stay hotel operating under the Home 2 Suites by Hilton brand. Extended stay hotels serve guests who typically remain in the community for multiple nights or longer, often professionals working working on projects in the area. The hotel will include guest suites, small meeting and collaborative spaces, fitness amenities, and outdoor gathering areas. Hotels are listed as conditional use under the Public Use Airport Zoning District, which is why the application is before you this evening. This slide illustrates the site layout. The plan includes 2 access points from Wagner Court, 115 parking spaces, landscaping along street frontage, stormwater and utility connections designed to meet city standards. City staff completed a detailed review and determined that the proposal meets the applicable development code requirements, including transportation, utilities, parking, and landscaping. We appreciate the staff's thorough review of the application and understand that the recommendation before the commission is approval of the conditional use permit subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. We are prepared to comply with those conditions. This image shows the architectural design of the proposed hotel. The building incorporates a contemporary design with a mix of materials consistent with newer Hilton properties. The design also complements the modern industrial and educational architecture nearby, helping the project integrate with the surrounding employment district. We believe the project will be a high-quality addition to the air park and to the surrounding business community. Before closing, I would like to briefly note the strength of the project, sponsor, and brand. Hilton is one of the largest hotel companies operating more than 1.3 million rooms across 143 countries and territories worldwide. Home 2 Suites by Hilton was launched in 2009 and today has more than 840 hotels open, with the largest new construction pipeline of any hotel brand in the United States. Before approving a project, Hilton conducts extensive market analysis and financial underwriting to ensure long-term viability. The extended stay segment has been one of the fastest growing and most resilient segments of the hospitality industry, particularly in driven markets by industrial development and project-based employment. Given the continued growth occurring around the air park, OMIC, PCC, and surrounding employment centers within Columbia County, we believe this product will align with the lodging needs of professionals working in the area. For these reasons, we believe the project is consistent with the city's development code, supports the growing employment base, and represents a high-quality investment in Scappoose business community. We respectfully request the Commission's approval of the conditional use permit. Thank you for your time this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is there going to be any kind of restaurant drinking facility?
The Home Tea Suites provides breakfast in the morning, and so that is available to our guests. We are also considering, in addition to the proposed prototype, to include what they call it's basically a wall where people can walk up and pour a beer, pour a glass of wine. In addition, we also have a marketplace which provides frozen foods and foods that are refrigerated for heating in their rooms.
Hi, my name is alternate Commissioner Willow Ryan. First of all, I just want to say that I get very excited about the potential for having a new building brought into our community, not only to help bolster a local economy like what you're talking about, but also to provide some jobs and an income source for our local residents, which is essential for our community. Additionally, I really appreciate and value a lot of the flora and fauna that you're going to be implementing here with the ginkgo, the English lavender, the dogwood. It seems like it's going to really upscale a lot of the greenery around the area. One question I do have is your considered extended stay. What is your maximum stay, your maximum night stay that you're allowing for this specific hotel?
So extended stay hotels typically, and this is me putting on a brand hat because I'm a former corporate America gal. We like to see 7 days as a minimum and 30 days as a maximum.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I actually have a question. I am curious about your community or meeting spaces. Are those open to the public to rent rooms or anything for meetings, or is that just specific for guests?
It is typically for guests who are there, but there is a communal area where people can meet as smaller groups. I would say groups probably 10 or under. And the reason that we did not incorporate fuller meeting space or an individual meeting room is because PCC and OMIC have extensive meeting capabilities already.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what I hear you're saying is that you are going to supplement some of the meeting space with those two adjacent properties, PCC, OMIC,
Yes.
and you will, I'm assuming, potentially be renting that space out or helping facilitate rental and usage of that space would potentially be bringing those two facilities extra income as well too, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions at this time?
I have one more question. It's just a design question. So I noticed on the building design, I think it is the back side, or I'm not sure what the road is. It was showing the building right here. So Exhibit 4E. I am just curious about the back side of the building, the road that it backs up to. And then it looks like there's an area where you can like walk out back. What is that exactly?
You're looking at D. Okay, so when we were looking at this site plan, when we were looking at the site plan initially with our architects and our civil engineer, one of the things that we usually like to see in hotel developments is access that would wrap around the building so that you would have parking behind the building. Unfortunately, with the size and all of the easements that are part of this property, it reduced the size of our lot, which reduced our size of parking. And we were not able to meet the initial parking requirement. So what we did was we pushed the building all the way to the back, and we created fire lanes that would hit the building, meeting the code for 3 angles in which the fire code would be able to address the building from 3 sides, and an avenue in which they would be able to pull their ropes 150 feet behind if for some reason there was a need for fire. This is open area and guests can walk back there. And on the far right back side is also an area for pet relief. So guests who are traveling with their pets will have an area in that back corner to relieve their pets.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Downwind the hotel.
On the south side of the hotel, there's the taxiway easement. Is there any sort of fencing that's going to go there to separate hotel guests from wandering through there? I know it's not an issue now, but the hope is that the taxiway the easement will be used as a taxiway at some point. And I don't think people work too well with taxiways.
Well, we certainly don't want anybody pedestrian walking back there. So yes, there will be fencing there, and the fire chief had requested that as a condition.
Okay, great. Any other questions right now? Okay. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to, is there anybody here that would like to speak in support of this proposal? Seeing none, is there anybody that would like to speak in opposition to this proposal tonight? Seeing none. Would you like to dispute, or sorry, rebut any of the testimony that was not given in opposition to this proposal? Okay, great. Then any other staff comments?
No.
All right. That, I believe, is everything. And so the hearing will be closed for consideration of the matter by the commission. So excellent question. Good job, you guys. Any other thoughts or comments?
I do. I do. I am just curious for you actually, with working with the airport. So now that you have come to the conclusion for the city that under is not within, is that going to become part of the new regulations for our city?
It will certainly become our like precedent of code. All the time when we come across something, any of these situations where it's not 100% clear, we do go back and look and see what decisions did the city render on this issue previously. And so, yeah, it will become our standing precedent.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will say that having been in the planning world, I certainly see a lot of things come down to specific word choice in code. And I got to say that I was unimpressed with the ODA's comment saying that underneath and within in the same thing. I did not like that because that's really, to me, that's very unclear. The definitions of underneath and within are pretty clear and they don't mean the same thing. So trying to conflate the terms just frustrated me a little bit when I read that comment. And, like, I think the city made the appropriate determination, and I think it would have been nearly impossible to have supported the interpretation ODA was suggesting. It certainly doesn't have that in code language. Okay. If there's no other questions, then I would entertain a motion.
Move to accept and approve.
Okay. Can we make that a little bit taller? Title.
Okay. Learning curve. Bear with me.
You're doing great.
Specifically which?
The-
The docket?
Yeah, approve that. That
Okay.
way it's specific.
And then if you could say too, with the, and adopt the amended staff report dated March 9th, 2026.
I move to accept and approve the amended docket, 5.1 docket number CU 1-26, PLA 1-26.
And if you would say, and adopt the amended staff report dated March 9.
And adopt the amended staff report dated March 9th.
Thank you.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this issue? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Thank you very much, everyone. We have a few business items for ourselves that are thoroughly entertaining, I promise. But if you don't want to stay for the entertainment, thank you for coming.
I have one,
Thank you all.
I have one comment if I could.
Oh, yes.
I'm just gonna say that I felt really well informed after reading this. You guys really did a good job on this, and the applicant did a good job explaining everything. It didn't leave, I mean, there really weren't a question. I didn't have any questions because everything was pretty much answered.
Thank you.
So, good job, you guys. I mean, you really did, both, working together. And it is a complicated issue, and there's,
Yeah.
a lot of, feelings one way or the other about various parts of this. So anyway, thank you. I think you did a good job providing, all of the information that we need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
On our exciting agenda, we have calendar checks next. That was later about the town meeting, yes.
Mhm.
On Monday the 16th, there's a council work session and a city council meeting at 7. On the 19th at noon, there's an economic development committee meeting. No planning commission on the 26th. Then in April, on the 6th, there is a city council work session at 6, followed by a city council meeting at 7. No planning commission on the 9th of April. On the 20th of April, city council work session at 6, followed by a council meeting at 7, and no planning commission on the 23rd. It's about the easiest calendar check I can remember in recent memory. Commissioner comments. Go ahead first, but I mean, I already kind of said it. Really good question, you guys. Awesome. And echo what Rita said. You covered all the bases super well. you know, I think they did a great job with their presentation.
Yeah.
Clearly,
Just all
it's,
in all, I think it made it easier for us to, if you had any questions, it pretty much, for me anyway, pretty much answered, and it was answered somewhere in.
yeah, yeah, I
documentation,
mean,
So,
it- these packets are not all for show, and
they're not-
honestly, there's a lot of times that I've seen people come in, literally their answer is in the packet. Clearly, like it takes some effort to go
Yeah.
through it, but it provides a lot of information that's very relevant.
You guys do a good job all
Yeah.
the time, but, I just want to make, it does make a difference. That's an easier time to understand.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like the chair mentioned, you all asked really good questions and had great engagement with this one. So I think between, excuse me, getting over a cold. I think between the commission staff and the applicant, it's always nice when we can all just bring our A game and then work off each other. And I think tonight was a good example of that.
Makes a difference. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments?
Well, I have a question. Do we, council work sessions, are any of them that we need to be at?
We'll talk about it if there's sometimes combined
Yeah.
meetings, but
I haven't
assume,
noticed that on any of these.
yeah, assume not unless otherwise stated.
Otherwise, I haven't.
You'll definitely know ahead of time if there's something that the planning commission has a joint meeting. But even then, it's like any planning commission meeting where any particular commissioner, if they have a conflict, it's usually not a big deal.
And this calendar is subject to change, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Our website has a calendar too with
Yeah.
all these. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just making sure that I, from my end, block all these out, because if I don't,
Yeah.
they're gone.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they've been on my calendar for 10 years now, and I delete them as needed.
okay.
The, it's just easier for me to leave it as an
Yeah.
open-ended, and it's
Yeah,
always a reminder. But when I get these, when they tell us no planning commission, I've never seen them say, "Oh, wait a second, we're gonna have planning commission." Yeah. Anything else?
Town hall? Went very well. I was there,
Oh, great.
and I thought Mayor did a good job. Presentation, and just in general, I was really glad to see so many people show up. It was a wide variety of people and a lot of different age groups too, which I thought was nice. All in all, I thought it went really well, and they did, doing a really good job of planning it and putting it all together. And Saturday mornings early are hard for people. Some people, I'm retired, I don't get up early anymore. So, I mean, I know what it's like to have to go that early, but there was a really big showing. I was. Staff, how to work.
This is the time for it. Anything else before I turn it over to staff? Staff comments.
Again, okay. I'll start with the annual town meeting. So yeah, that was last Saturday on the 7th. We're estimating about 150 people attended, which is not the super highest we've ever had, but it is better than recent years. We keep track of attendance, and it was very well attended, and people seem to really be enjoying themselves, and that's the number one thing, right? Is for people to connect with their community, get involved, share their input, hear what's going on. We had the mayor provided a state of the city address. There were community groups tabling afterwards, and then we did a breakout activity around the general fund and looking at if we're taking a deep dive into the general fund, establishing and getting right our level of service. So what are we continuing to spend money on? What is the right amount of sworn police officers in our local police department? all those kinds of questions, people got the opportunity to weigh in on in groups and talk things out. Saw several of you there, so thank you to those of you who were able to make it. If you have any feedback, again, even though we think it was a pretty good event, if you have any feedback, you can just shoot me a quick email and let me know. We do a lot of like internal audits of that event from a staff perspective, but I mean, the event is for the community. And so if you're hearing things or noticing them yourself, please just let me know and we'll do what we can to make it even better next year. One other comment I wanted to make on the calendar in terms of just expecting planning commission meetings, like the chair's right, you know, these meetings are known weeks and weeks in advance because we have to write the staff report and that takes the longest portion of time. But then there's also public noticing. So there's mailed noticing. And then for an application like this, there's also going to be posted noticing and you're going to see it in the newspaper. And so all that stuff, we're talking weeks and weeks ahead of time. And so the dates are very coordinated. And so you'll generally know about a month in advance if we're having a meeting. And right now, as you'll hear in my update in a sec, there's not really much on the rise. Just planning has its ebbs and flows, and right now it's whichever of those is lower. I think it's ebbs. But we're doing a lot in the construction world, particularly around housing. So we just had the plat recorded for Huser Estates. That's south of JP West and west out of ways. Provided they're also submitting building permits now that the plat is recorded. So the first one they're anxious on is their model home, getting that in. And then they also submitted 4 other building permits. So we took a look at that, provided some comments, and then just today they resubmitted their new plot plans. And so going to take a look at those and hopefully get them approved pretty soon so they can start building houses. The similar stage, we're reviewing the plat for Buxton Ranch. That's also south of JP West, but it's more towards the center of town, just south of Veterans Park. So we're looking at the plat for that. We haven't done a review of that yet, so that'll be like kind of a more in-depth scale of comments, really taking a while to look at it and make sure they have everything we need or that we're asking for it. Just a couple days ago, the partition application from the ODOT Rail Division came in. And so the long-term plan with that is to, you have to do it as a partition initially, but then once the land is partitioned, the ODOT will quitclaim deed that land on towards the street to the city. And then we will then proceed to dedicate that land as right-of-way. And this is around Northeast First Street, really close to here. So that will extend the right of way, and then it'll eventually will develop as a whole project along with some private partners in all likelihood as public parking. So street side public parking, and it'll be like landscaped and everything, and it'll look really nice and really make up that area and provide also parking for development on smaller sites, but where they need it for the scale to make their parking work. So that's going to be a huge project. That's really Chris's feather in his cap and working with different folks at ODOT to make that happen over the last literally 10 years or so. So super excited to see that moving. 50-year plan wise, about the same status as last time we all met in January. We're doing background work right now and getting all of the findings ready in order for us to go to adoption. The Planning Commission is going to be the first stop for those hearings, and we're thinking at the May 28th meeting, if you want to write that down. That's what we're thinking right now for Planning Commission, the Planning Commission to begin adoption hearings for the 50-year plan. Let's see, the Scappoose to St. Helens Trail project is moving along. They've had their second project management internal meeting. And then pretty soon, within the next month or so, they're going to open up the Public Advisory Committee, or the PAC, they're calling it. And so that will be, I believe, 4 meetings. Lori might correct me if that's wrong, but I believe it's 4 meetings in the next year in order for the trail between Scappoose and St. Helens, the planning work for that. So that committee will get going soon here. And then transportation system plan update with that ODOT grant for 250,000. That's also in the same place as last time. We're working with ODOT on the scope of work and getting the contract, template in order. And then the city would eventually put out a RFP or request for proposal to start soliciting bids from consultants that can help us put together the transportation plan.
Solicitation?
Just, I don't know
Because
exactly.
I thought that they used to have a number of groups that basically, 4 groups run rotation, that they would.
No, the city gets to have selectors. Yeah, so we put some people on our staff in that selection group to pick a consultant. And we've had some meetings too with consultant groups who know that we have a TSP update on the horizon and just want to know what are the pain points in Scappoose, what are the challenges, what are we looking to really get out of this plan? Where's our CIP list in terms of projects getting ticked off, all those kind of things. So I think we met with 4 or so consultants on that. Any questions for me before I pass it off? Okay. Yeah, Lori, do you have any other updates, planning or?
I know it, NJ, you took all my updates. I'll just have one that I can share. So probably many of you have heard that Columbia Economic Team is no more. So the city did inherit some of those programs. City Manager Ben Bergener was very proactive in working with the different grant agencies that was funding a lot of that work to get those grants transferred to Scappoose. So we did hire Sierra Trass as of last week, who was previously with Columbia Economic Team. We have funding to support her position from several grants that she was working on. So there's a Business Oregon grant that will fund the BRE project that she was working on to continue that. That is the Business Retention and Expansion Grant that supported folks about a year and a half ago to interview 75 different businesses across the county. As a result of that, there were 4 task groups that were formed, regulations, workforce, communication, and revitalization. So this will allow Sierra to continue that work. We also had transferred to us a Ford Family Foundation GROW grant, and that grant supports different business loan and grant options, and as well as it will just help support kind of setting up an economic development ecosystem here in the county. And so we're looking at different options for that, one of which is like a business boot camp for small businesses that helps them just kind of understand the fundamentals there. And then also the Keep It Local campaign, you'll see a lot about that around the holidays. So that is also going to be managed by Sierra through the city. And then the Small Business Resource Center was providing business coaching to businesses in the county. That was funded through a USDA grant, which did not transfer to the city. So we don't currently have funding for the business coaching. We're looking at some different options. So we do expect by this fall to have some funding that should support that work again. So we're excited to be, involved more in economic development across the county, and looking to see, how we can start to grow some programs here in Scappoose as well. So be looking for more on that soon. That's all. Thanks.
Chris, anything you want to add?
I can add a little bit to what NJ provided in his update. A little bit of overlap there. Let's see. We have a little bit of code we're looking at for container boxes in the right of way. Part of our code updates that we're collectively looking at CDC. And then we have an RFP out for Vine, Southeast Vine, Southeast Fifth, and Third Place. Do some street improvements, street and utility improvements. We'll get that. That closes at the end of the month currently. So we're soliciting bids for design engineering. That'll be a 2027 project. We're also working on a couple of subdivisions that they mentioned. User, of course, up on Keys Road there. They're doing, they're just wrapping up some frontage improvements. Keys Road, the paving plant just, they're scheduled to open next week. And so there's a bit of backlog, and then we'll get a shot at getting that paved in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So kind of weather, but hopefully within the month of March, just on Keith Road. Let's see, and then on Buxton down the street from that, by Veterans Park, they're still doing utility work. It's going to get a bit more intense on JP West, so kind of watch out for that. It's going to be over there as they dig up the road and get utilities. That'll be on for, and then in the background, that's going pretty well. So on days like today, the dealer's market is pretty well wrapped up with the paving work out there. There's a few little items that are going to come back in. They have to do to wrap that site up and get ready for what will be another use. It's kind of what it's leaning towards right now. Let's see, we're trying to move forward on a couple of projects. A couple other projects here I'll just mention briefly. Maple Street Townhomes at the end of Southeast Maple Street. That's in design right now by the engineering team. See something here soon. You guys approved that a few months ago. Haven't seen anything on the Elm Street annexation. DNJ.
No.
Kind of dead on that. I think they're going to go back and kind of rethink that project a little bit. We'll see. Let's see, offset storage facility over there off Scappoose-Vernonia Highway. We have plans in for review, so we're taking a look at that. Wana Credit Union, which you approved March of 2025, so it's been a year basically. We're through our third plan review on that project, and hopefully we can get that wrapped up and get them in construction over the next couple of months. And then Oxbow Warehouse, a bit of a rethink on that one. I remember that from several years ago. That's on hold. There's a bit of an engineering kind of rethinking that too. Those are kind of the highlights. I'm working on some stuff with the DEQ, the public works director and myself. We've got a couple of different mandates that came down from, the state DEQ, and one is related to mercury control, soil. The other one's related to temperature control in the creek. So they're sort of similar. They just want us to sort of talk about how we suggestions on how to control the impacts of those things and what the city can do. And so we're putting together a plan currently on the temperature TMDL. The mercury control document is actually on our website. I believe it's under the Public Works tab. Program there. We don't have to fully implement all of the requirements of it until I think 2020. 2029. Just because of the size of the city, that gives so much time. But basically, we're doing temperature one is sort of a new requirement for weeks. Everybody's kind of trying to weed through that at the same time, so we don't have a real template to follow. It's fairly new for the whole county. So we've created a coalition around Scappoose Bay Watershed Council. And Rochelle over there is helping us put together a comprehensive, recommendations around that program, which will be nice because we'll all be following the same rules. So that's been great to look at. Additionally, just on the stormwater side, gotten sufficient funds now to take on some stormwater retrofit projects. We haven't ever really done any stormwater. Actually, we haven't done any stormwater projects in the city of Scappoose the whole time I've been. They've all been kind of private development. So this year we're looking at doing dry well retrofits to add some water quality treatment, some of our existing public dry wells, and then also to just add some stormwater improvements to just get water off the street. So if you're tired of seeing puddles, you're gonna see some changes. Won't be this year, but we're gonna get the designs going and start ticking, checking stuff off there. So it'll just be kind of an ongoing process over the next decade. Start to address those poor drainage. That, along with some of these road projects I talked about that are more holistic, the combination of those two should help improve the city. And in particular, I should add, around areas where we have high pedestrian traffic, around the schools and around our busier collectors, in the downtown core. So we're really focused on kind of that first. If you don't see it in your neighborhood, get there, it just might take a few years. So the highlights.
I have a question.
Sure.
Doesn't really pertain to anything you said, but I appreciate everything you said. Who would we talk to about the I think it's Pickle Place neighborhood or the Sauerkraut subdivision?
Yeah.
There is a walking path that goes from that subdivision over to Grant Watts.
Yes, I know it very well.
Do you? Okay. I am so tired of tripping over that on Thursdays and Fridays, so I thought I would bring it up.
I would love for you to submit a comment on our traffic safety portion of our website.
Okay.
And if you do that, it just helps give us some public feedback, essentially, to kind of take action on it. I've
Okay.
done basically everything I can do short of going to council on it.
Okay.
But I need, if it's just coming from me, I mean, we
Yeah.
have 1,000 different things I could say done to all these issues.
Yeah.
What the public works director and the city manager need is sort of comments from the
From the public.
citizens.
Okay.
From the public.
Yeah, it's mostly kids, and I don't
Oh,
think,
yeah.
they're really not gonna submit anything, but I've noticed it over the past 2 years, just getting way
It's-
worse.
I have a lot of documentation on that particular issue, and it's what's unusual about it is it's in private ownership.
Is it, see, that's what I was wondering.
It was, so the developer, and this is something we work with on new projects, but the developer of that held on to the stormwater facility and that path
Mhm.
as common area to be managed by the HOA.
And then
And
closed
then
it.
they never formed an HOA to my
Yeah.
knowledge. Yeah, so the HOA was never formed, and the developer just held on to it. And it gets sort of strange because there isn't an entity to kind of turn it over to.
Yeah.
Except for the city.
Yeah.
And the city's position, particularly one individual, just doesn't want to accept, the additional maintenance responsibility of it. So we're kind of at a bit of an impasse there.
Got it.
So that's the hurdle I'm trying to get over.
So, the HOA that owns the townhomes across the street on Third, they were the same builders, and I believe they were the same HOA at one point. And then it looked like they just stopped, like they had filed to be an HOA. But I purchased over there and we don't have an HOA, but
On
across
the-
the street does.
On the east side of Third?
Yeah.
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 They may have formed and then decided to disband too.
Okay.
It may have been just a brief
While they're
time when they
building.
were an HOA, because they, in the old agreements, which we don't really allow now, they could form, and in some of the language, it would say that they would extinguish the HOA after like 10 years.
Mhm,
And so they would just vote to extinguish it.
Yeah.
Because they just got tired of paying the fees.
mhm.
We don't do that with the current agreements. So, yeah, they don't have a functional HOA. The one west of Third Street, Southeast Third, they have a functional HOA over there.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that's helpful, but
So what happens? Does the city absorb that property?
yeah, we would accept it in, it would just become city property, and then
Okay.
the proposal on the table currently is that the developer repairs it
Mm-hmm.
so that it's not a hazard and then hands it off to the city. And
That
rather
sounds
than have
great.
asphalt come all the way down, be the connection to the street, that would all be concrete
Mm-hmm.
and get rid of that tripping hazard. And then we need to do on the path to make it better, and then we
Yeah.
would accept it. So that's sort of what I'm, I don't think Ben is aware of that issue just because he's kind of new.
Mm-hmm.
If you submit that, we do meet, our traffic safety committee meets monthly or every other month, kind of depends on if there's anything on the agenda. And all of those complaints that come in, we do talk about.
Okay.
So it'd be
perfect.
great if you.
I'll
want to submit.
submit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That'd be
And I
great.
just emailed you the link, Carlo.
Easy.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I've been trying to move it. I can't do it.
Liz? Okay, well, with that, I'm gonna declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.